up, everybody? Welcome back to Taste Like Music. Jason, Joe, and Crams are here. Side 3 of Blur Week, the final day of January. Finally drawn to a close, but we'll be back next week with another artist that Joe loves, The Darkness. But before we get to that, we're going to talk about band Rivalries, obviously inspired by Blur and Oasis and their famous rivalry, Battle of Britpop, all of that. So we're going to talk about some other bands that have not necessarily gotten along at all times. What have you guys got?
Let's start with the big one when we were growing up, all over the news. Gotta go with Biggie and Tupac. Everyone knows the story. Tupac gets killed. He had, I believe, or not killed, the first shooting attempt or whatever in like 94. Upstairs was Biggie and P. Diddy, I believe. And Tupac was like, oh, they set me up. And then Biggie like made fun of Tupac in a diss track that was like, yeah, well, you'd be dead if I try you or whatever. And then the response to that was a diss track where apparently like Tupac was just like, well, I slept with your wife. It's like the only thing that really tops like murder attempt is, yeah, I got down with your one and only. So pretty cool there. Also inspired, the whole rap rivalry thing that swarmed the youth culture. Gave me one of my favorite sketches by Mr. Show when they do the East Coast, West Coast ventriloquism thing and the puppets are like lying down on the ground. Anyway, a little bit of a tangent there. Let's also go with Madonna versus Lady Gaga. Obviously, Madonna, when Lady Gaga hit, was kind of waning. Her career was dipping a good bit. And everyone came out and was like, this girl's the new Madonna. And Madonna was like, no, she's too much like me. These songs sound like mine. And then Lady Gaga was like, honey, I actually write my music and play instruments. And Madonna was like, oh, no, you didn't, Gaga, or whatever. And I don't know, whatever. I'll probably take Gaga over Madonna if I'm being pressed, but I don't think either will be in my top 100 artist countdown when we get to it. Oasis may have been fighting Blur, but Liam and Noel sure were fighting one another. So many stories about them being complete dickheads to each other, and I can't stand them as human beings. I find them so immature and just awful. My favorite story, though, is when they did that MTV Unplugged, and Liam was sick or whatever, but then was in the audience. He's in the audience drunk, heckling his brother who's singing the songs. It's like, good Lord, children here. And then I'll go with one that's near and dear to my heart that I didn't really understand growing up and really isn't that much of a feud, but because of the line in Sweet Home Alabama had to been explained to me by my father. Always been on Neil Young's side of the Leonard Skinner feud. Love Neil Young. He's a top 5 artist for me, so I got to take him no matter what. And then let's go with a newer one there's a little bit of fire because there's a little bit of smoke here. I'm going to go with Jason's idol prophet Paul McCartney and the Rolling Stones. Just a few months ago, McCartney taking shots at the Stones, kind of backhanded, like, yeah, they're great and everything, but they are just kind of a blues cover band. And it's like, I don't think so, Sir Paul. Come on. I mean, and then I think it was Mick did an interview and he was like, yeah, we were a blues cover band selling out shows for 50 years while you guys lasted a whole half a decade or whatever. It's like, oh, yeah, well, whatever. Would love to see them get in the ring with one another.
All right. My first one, David Bowie and Mark Bolan. I think early on, Bowie opened for T-Rex doing his mime routine and was booed off the stage. But then I think later, once Bowie started to become more successful and get more attention, it kind of, I think, drove a wedge between them a little bit. I think they were very competitive with each other, even though they were initially really good friends. But they did go several years without speaking. Bowie did appear on Mark Bolan's television show, which was called Mark, and they sang Heroes together. But that was right before Mark Bolan died in a car accident. Then I'm going to go with Pavement and the Smashing Pumpkins, of course, sparked largely by the lyrics to Range Life. where he sings Nature Kids, they don't have no function. I don't understand what they mean, and I could really give a fuck. Kind of, I think his point is that I think he's accusing the Smashing Pumpkins there of kind of using the alternative rock sound to kind of raise their profile. I'll go with a more recent one, Mark Kozelek in the War on Drugs. They were at a festival together. Mark Kozelek could hear, since his stuff is so quiet, he could hear the loud War on Drugs set kind of bleeding into his stage and the area in front of the stage, people listening to him. And he called it beer commercial lead guitar shit. And then he wrote a song called War on Drugs, Suck My Cock. And then they tried to patch it up, and he invited someone from the War on Drugs to perform the song live with him. And it would be like, oh, this is kind of funny, a little ironic. He's not actually being that serious. It's all good. It's all just a big joke. And then the offer, when they called him back to say, yeah, we'll do it, he said, the offer has expired. Maybe when I get home from tour, I'll go to Starbucks and buy your record. But I guess War on Drugs came out on top of that after Kozelek was accused of sexual misconduct by 7 women shortly thereafter. Another one I'm going to go with is Jack White and the Black Keys, which private emails leaked between Jack White and his ex-wife when he found out that she was enrolling their kids in the same private school as Dan Auerbach's. And he was like, are you kidding me? I'm going to end up next to this guy at a parent-teacher conference. And that leaked out into the public. So it was a big thing. And he's been very vocal about not appreciating them kind of ripping off his sound. Apparently they've patched things up, but all right, I don't know.
Does anyone here really think that he ripped off Jack White's sound?
100%. That's all it is.
You think it's direct from Jack White? Like Jack White doesn't rip off anything? Like there's no lineage here?
There's lineage, but they are the 2 links closest together in the chain.
Well, either way, I'll take the Black Keys over the White Stripes.
Nah. I'll go Nirvana and Guns N' Roses. At the VMAs, Axl taunted Courtney Love and told Kurt Cobain to keep his woman in line. And then it became this big thing on stage. Nirvana kind of called him out. Dave Grohl was saying, where's Axl? Where's Axl? So then it kind of seeped into the press and became a whole thing. That's what I got.
Okay, well, you could make a whole list exclusively of Jack White versus, you do the Black Keys. You ragged on Meg White a bunch after the White Stripes broke up. Adele, Lana Del Rey. Didn't he try and fight someone too? Who did he fight from?
He got into a big fight with the guy from the Von Bondies.
Yes. He just seems like a very sort of, I don't know, uptight guy. Like he thinks he didn't rip off 1,000 other people. Like Distills is just like Led Zeppelin. Like he ripped off so many people. I have no time for Jack White. I think he's a bit pretentious. Yes, me. Also on my list, and you can just pick one of the many feuds that Jack White has for number 1. Number 2, Kanye West versus Taylor Swift. Ever since the 2009 BMAs, when he grabbed the trophy and said that Beyonce, I forget exactly what he said, but he's basically like, Beyonce had the best video ever. And then they kind of went back and forth. And then there was the music video where Kanye had like a lookalike of Taylor Swift, like in his bed, like they had sex or whatever with like a whole bunch of other people. That did not go over well. I think that was he called her that bitch, like just constant back and forth between those two. I don't think they ever patched it up either. Tupac versus Biggie's a good one. Since Krams already did that, I'll do Jay-Z versus Nas. They had a couple back and forth. Nas did the diss track The Message, and then Jay-Z did Takeover. It all started when Nas failed to show up for a recording session for Reasonable Doubt. They were going to do a whatever not a duet, whatever rap people call, collaboration between the two they were going to do, but Nas didn't show up. So they've been beefing ever since, I guess. I don't know. I haven't really followed through on whether or not they still are or not, but that was a big deal back in the day. We'll do Megadeth versus Metallica. It's a good one because Dave Mustaine was in Metallica, which I feel like everyone should know that, but maybe they don't. Mustaine even gets a couple writing credits, I think, on a couple Metallica tracks. They kicked him out. He went and did Megadeth, and they've basically been sparring back and forth ever since. I don't think they've ever quite gotten over it, despite the similarities. How about Lennon v. McCartney? That was a big one. After the Beatles broke up, of course, they traded a couple tracks back and forth. How Do You Sleep from Lennon that was an obvious one at McCartney. That's pretty good too. Like that got him good. McCartney had a couple, Too Many People, Dear Friend, Silly Love Songs, I guess. Basically a draw, I think. Although I see where Lennon was coming from. I think he had a little bit more artistic, he was definitely more liked by those arty types than McCartney. McCartney was slumming it with the pop stars. He didn't care. But they did kind of reconcile before Lennon's tragic death. Courtney Love versus Dave Grohl, and that'll finish it off for me. Grohl would always insinuate that Courtney Love did not write her own tracks. He went on Howard Stern in '99 and said his favorite whole song was Teenage Whore because it was the only one he knew Love actually wrote. Woo! That is spicy. And they're always going back and forth. Love's, she's a bit out there sometimes. I believe she suggested that he got Taylor Hawkins in the Foo Fighters because he kind of looked like Kurt Cobain, and that Dave Grohl was secretly in love with Kurt Cobain or whatever. I don't know. Yeah, there's a whole lot between those two. I don't know if they ever worked it out or not. They hugged at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony in 2014, but I don't know if they're ever quite seeing eye to eye. The whole legacy of Nirvana kind of is always going to be a touch point between those two.
Say what you want about Courtney Love, but she was really good in People vs. Larry Flint.
All right. So let us know which ones we've missed. What are the big rivalries that are still left on the board? There are a bunch of other ones, so drop those down in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel. We've got a new Patreon. Go check that out. You will be able to have a little bit of a voice in some of the content coming up on the channel if you head over there. You can also find Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, our website, and our merch store in the video description. And aside from that, yeah, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Songs of the Year 1988 coming up tomorrow. See you then.